Thinking about career growth? Join Asian Center of Entrepreneurships and Real Estate today. Learn more about decision making, essentials of business, improve marketing performance, develop crucial communication skills, and more. Join ACE-RE today and get a chance to be mentored by the best professionals in the country. Unlock the entrepreneurship inside you. Learn from the experts. Contact us at 0969-557-7017 or email us at asiancenterandrealestate@gmail.com. Let's all welcome our host, Dr. Eduardo G. Ong, MBA, JD, PhD, DPA, DBA. He is a highly respected real estate professional, educator, and mentor. He holds a PRC license number 001 for real estate broker, appraiser, and consultant. He is the first chairman of Professional Regulatory Board of Real Estate Service. Currently, he is the Dean of College of Real Estate Management of Lyceum of Alabang. Please welcome PRC Outstanding Professional, Doc E.G.
Yes, good morning, real estate. Hello there. Welcome again to another exciting episode of Doc E.G. Live. Yes, so many things have happened in the past, during the last week. I would like to extend our deepest condolences to Tere Canlas on the untimely demise of her husband, Romel Canlas, and I think the remains are lying in state at the Christ the King in Green Meadows up to tomorrow. And likewise, so condolence to the wife of my good friend, Attorney Edmond Tan, the president of Philippine Dispute Resolution Center. On the wife passed away, si Doctora Barcelona Tan passed away, and our deepest condolences to them. Okay, so I've been asked so many times, when is the commission due? When in any real estate transaction, when can I get my commission? Does it follow that after the transaction is over, there's a meeting of the minds, and the commission is already due? I would say that perhaps not yet. The commission is due when, of course, after the meeting of the minds, after signing the deed of absolute sale, and it's now the work of the broker to transfer the title to the new owner. And that is what we are going to discuss this afternoon. We have invited a very well-known, prominent personality in the real estate industry to talk about the process, to talk about the efficient and effective process of titling and documentation. Kaya hold on. Hold on. We will be giving her to you in the soonest time. Okay, so but before that, allow me to congratulate everybody who have graduated last Saturday on the 18th commencement celebration of commencement exercises of the Lyceum of Alabang. So congratulations, graduates, especially those who graduated Bachelor of Science in Real Estate Management. Okay, and so also I also would like to greet my siblings. My goodness, they just called me. They are all in Tagaytay City now in the rest house of my sister Evelyn, but enjoying, and they're trying to ask me, "Oh, come over. How can I come? I'm having a program now." But let me just say hello and enjoy Sunday to my beloved sisters. Dalawa na lang po yan. Si Tessie Ong Aguilar and Evelyn Ong Amores. Together with the husband, no, Tony Amores and Russell Aguilar. And also, of course, my pamangkin, si Jason Aguilar and Doktora Aguilar. Aguilar tuloy. Doktora Chan. Nagkamali ako. But anyway, kasi yung aking mga kamag-anak nag-iba yung mga pamangkin ko yung nagsipag-asawa na lahat. Kaya minsan nawawala na ako. I lost track of them. And also all my pamangkin and my apos ata are there, no? Okay. So enjoy Sunday. Okay. Nga pala si Doktora Chang. Chang pala ang apelido nito. Okay. All right. So now, also would like to say hello to the Ibijit, the past world president of PFC, the Federation, International Federation of Real Estate Professionals, with headquarters in Paris. Si Mr. June Florentino June Dulalia Jr. Hello po, sir. Idol, Mr. President, together with President Attorney Michael Rose Limusnero of the Federation of Real Estate Service Professionals, and si Dr. Regis Romero, the President of PFC Philippines, and congratulations again to all of the board of directors, especially si architect Nestor Mangyo, who got the much coveted outstanding professional of the year 2022 in real estate service. So likewise, let me say hello to Glory C. Alam mo, masyadong kwantong babae ito, mabilis talagang marami siyang trabahong ginagawa at all over town. And Dr. Maya Villaluz, hello there. And of course, belated happy birthday to Eileen Armando and to the wife of my good friend June Munsayak, I think, who celebrated her birthday. Si Emily yun, ano? Emily, who celebrated her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Emily. And nakita ko sa Facebook, you had a good time together. Mag-imbita ka naman. Likewise, hello, likewise to Ellen Lee of Taiwan, no, who has been very supportive in all of our projects. And have always been there whenever Doc E.G live calls. She's always there. And Gabi Gomez and Butch Emparado of Santa Maria, Bulacan and Marilao, Bulacan. And hello to Congressman Marisa Del Mar of Andrea, but now she is now in Congress. And my good friend from Cebu, June Gulchano and Bong Labrador, no? And they are all from PFRESPI. And of course, a very good friend of mine, congratulations on a very successful ACRES, no? The Association of Salespersons held in Cebu. Si Anthony Leoterio, no? Si Ton Leoterio. Congratulations, Ton. And to my BFF, no? Melby Lorenzala Dorado Sada and Janet Mercado, congratulations. And alam ko na marami kayong mga achievements, especially Melby. Congratulations. Now, one of our BFFs is gonna be our resource person today. Yan. And also, congratulations also to Irene Opresio, who just graduated her MBA from the PCU. Yan. And also my good friend Melinda Lit. Si Melinda Lit, we have been together for almost 20 years, who lives in Los Baños, Laguna. And I visited her in Los Baños, Laguna. And likewise, hello to to a lot of, let me see, okay, to Jig Sia of Robinson Land, and to Bel Castro and family who lives in Las Piñas City. Yes. And also to, ano to, tawag dito, si Akira Baby. Okay, who's now here. Yeah, okay. So, ang dami po nating babatiin, pero, na pala, si G.G. Roa. Hello, G.G. Roa. At from Cagayan de Oro. Yung mga shoutout lang kayo at babatiin po namin kayo. Lahat dito sa ating programa. We are now nearing the 10th season. Isa na lang po. We are now 116 episode. And by 118, we will be moving on to another slot, and that is on a Friday. So we'll be having it on a Friday, 3 to 5 still, starting the 18th? Okay, the 18th of September. Okay. So, sino pa ba? Congratulations also to Vicky Salvano. I think who flew back to Chicago and had a very good stint on the promotion of the International Realtors members, no, IRM, sponsored by the National Association of Realtors. Now, so I will greet you as you come, as you check in, and then we will greet you. Okay, so now we move on first to one of the segments of our episode today, and that is the featured question of the week.
Featured question of the week. I am an accredited salesperson under a broker who closed the sale of a condo unit on a cash basis. My broker seems not to know what to do to finally close the transaction. I volunteered to do it myself to expedite the registration of the title to the new owner. After studying the process, I am now ready to accept the challenge. Doc E.G, may I know what are the expenses that I will be incurring to register the sale? How much and how long will the process take? Please advise. Thank you.
Well, I'm so happy that being a salesperson, you have initiated and you have studied well how to do the process. And the process will be discussed thoroughly by our resource person today. You're asking me what are the amounts, or how much would be paid when you register. You know, when you register a property, you have to be very sure that the real property tax is paid, no, updated RPT, which is in accordance with RA 7160 of the local government code, the real property taxation. Kailangan bayad yung RPT because the Register of Deeds will not register your title transferred to the new owner if the payment of RPT is not made. Okay, plus, of course, don't forget the capital gains tax, which is about 6%, no, of the total amount, DOAS or zonal, or whichever is zonal valuation by the BIR, or whichever is higher, no? Now, likewise, you have to pay for a DST, or documentary stamp tax, which is about 1.5%. And then you have to pay for the transfer of 0.75, and then all of these things. But the thing is that you should have at least substantial amount of money to have, so that you can effect the transfer of title to the new owner. They say that in all of the steps in real estate brokerage or marketing, so to speak, from the time of getting your listings and also procuring your prospects, or until presentation and demonstration to the client, and also the negotiation stage, which is very crucial, and until it reaches the conclusion or the closing of the transaction. Now, is it over? It's not over yet. After payment, well, the title should have been transferred to the new owner, and that is the job of the broker. The broker can do the legwork and the process to be able to effect the transfer of the title to the new owner. Once title is transferred, now that is when you're gonna get your much coveted commission. Okay? So, ganun po yan. Kaya ang suggestion ko ay tama-tama naman yung question na yan kasi ngayon we have a very good speaker to talk about effective and efficient transfer of title or titling and documentation process. Okay? So, thank you so much and please keep on writing. Those who are email, Facebook, etc., sulat lang po kayo at para alam natin kung anong dapat nating i-advise sa inyo. Okay. Now, the next segment is the featured broker of the week.
Good morning, everyone. I am Realtor Amor Ramos Lien, owner of Amor R. Lien Real Estate Services. I am a mother to my 3 lovely daughters, a housewife, and a businesswoman as well. My PRC number is 003926. I took the licensure exam in 2021. That was the historical licensure exam under Philippine Regulatory Commissions. And I'm so blessed I made it. Before passing the licensure, I was juggling my careers as a licensed teacher and a businesswoman. But now, I am proud to say that I am 100% realtor, and I have been in the industry for more than a decade now. Oh, there are a lot of things that make me busy nowadays. Aside from buying and selling properties, I am now enjoying the fruits of my labor. That is developing our mini farm, which would help us sustain our needs to have free organic supply of fruits and vegetables, which are free of pesticides for our health. Health is wealth, di ba? I am specialized mainly in general brokerage that involves selling and buying properties like commercial lots, roll-ons, both horizontal and vertical developments for my valued clients who have been my friends and some have become friends after successful transactions with them. I am also involved in project selling in NCR and Calabarzon area. There are a lot of good qualities that will make one successful in any professions and endeavor he or she is in. We are all aware of that. For more than a decade in the industry, I have considered myself as one of many successful people in the industry. and I thank God for helping me reach that status. For me, prayers and trusting to our Lord God is the key to become successful. Success is not only measured by how much you earn materially. And as for me, one is said successful if he or she knows how to face and manage the many challenges in every dealings in our lives and come out victorious and stronger to face new challenges. Just don't give up. Keep doing what you believe is right and always talk to God. My formula for success is very simple as ABC. One should be good in ABC. Good in attitude, good in behavior, and good in commitment. Diba, when we mastered the alphabet when we were young, we were able to read and write. Right now, if we master this new ABC, I am telling you that attitude, behavior, and commitment, you will never be wrong. And people around us, be it our colleagues or clients, for sure after every transaction, whether it is a success or not, knowing and mastering this ABC will help us or help you keep a good relationship with them. This has helped me to keep good relations with my valued clients through the years in many of our transactions together. My piece of advice for the new real estate practitioners, first is to continue their journey to become a salesperson with dignity. Second is to learn to choose the right people in the industry to help them mold, become equipped and skilled in dealings with transaction in real estate. As for me, I have been and will always be with LPC Rep or Las Piñas City Real Estate Board for as long as I live. That's why I chose to become one of the lifetime members of Las Piñas Board. And I am also a board of trustee for 7 consecutive years now. Because in our board, and also the board has helped me and trained me to become who and what I am today. In our board, there's no politics. We're just family growing stronger together. As we all know, real estate is a very lucrative business. Yes, it is true. My piece of advice to all realtors out there, whenever we have successful transactions and once we receive our professional fees, don't be what we call one-day millionaire. Of course, we have to spend it. But you know, there's a saying that the money you have now is not yours until you spend it. But we have to always put in our minds that we have to spend it wisely and spend it into something that would multiply it. Since we are very knowledgeable in real estate, let's put our money back into real estate as well. And lastly, don't forget to share our blessings. They said, sharing is caring, di ba? The more we share, the more prayers we receive from the people we cared for. And that is the secret of continuous blessings. I am a very simple person with a big heart, and I want to be remembered that way. And of course, I want also to be remembered as a person with good values and high integrity. With that, I would like to thank you, Doc E.G. and your staff for choosing me as your featured broker of the week. Congratulations on your show, and may our dear Lord bless you abundantly. Take care po, and may your tribe multiply. Salamat po.
Oh, yes, thank you, Amor. Thank you, Amor. Also, thank you to Jackie Bacolod and the entire leadership of Las Piñas City Real Estate Board, headed by Philip Ebardone and, some of its past president, Irene Oprecio, and also Asilo Laksamana, and the rest of the group. So maraming salamat po for lending me si Amor Lin. At tanong naman ang kanyang mga sharing ay napakaganda at nakakatuwa naman. At andito naman yung ating mga kaibigan na nakikinig sa atin ngayon, si Dr. Gabby Villaluz. How are you, Doc Gabby? Ayan, naku, hindi ko makakalimutan, Doc Gabby, magaling magpanto, magsumba. And Teresita Monesa. And nako, I met this lady, fine lady, together with Vivian Castro at the IRM meeting in Makati Sport Club. Venice D, president of Quezon City PFRESPI. And also Claire Burseso, kumusta po kayo dyan? And well, from Calamba, Laguna, Carol De Sacramento. Regular natin to, Carol. Kita tayo when I go to Laguna. At handito na yung ating resource person. Thank you so much. But before that, let us go into Info Beach.
Infobits, brought to you by Doc E.G Live. Did you know that real estate markets may be classified as strong form efficient, semi-strong form efficient, or weak form efficient? Efficiency measures the level of development or goal attainment in a complex social and economic system, such as the real estate market. The efficiency of the real estate market is the individual participant's ability to achieve the set goals. The number of goals is equivalent to the number of participants. Every market participant has a set of specific efficiency benchmarks which can be identified and described. In line with the theory of rational expectations, every participant should rationally make decisions by relying on all available information to make the optimal forecast. The effectiveness of the real estate market is a function of the efficiency of individual market participants.
Okay, that's it. Now I'm trying to look at the resume of our esteemed resource person, who happens to be one of my BFFs. No? Sabi nga niya sa akin, Doc E.G, hindi ba masyado na akong overexposed? Hindi as long as you're able to share information, then this can never be overexposure. Our resource person today is a Master's of Science in Environmental Studies and from Miriam College, Quezon City, and a Master of Science in Agricultural Administration at with academic requirements from the GAUP, Gregorio Araneta Foundation University, and got a postgraduate diploma course on Geographic Information System, International Aerospace Survey, and Earth Science, ITC, which is ends in the Netherlands, and likewise a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering at the National University Manila. Yes, train a lot. Dami niyang training, no? At from property management to BNI Global Convention to NAR Realtors Conference in Chicago, Illinois, and likewise in Orlando, Florida, and uh, and also in well, of course, attended also a lot of local conventions, no? Well, a certified international property specialist of NAR USA, and an e-pro training of NAR USA, and a NAR Realtor Conference in San Francisco, California. And of course, he has a course on GIS and remote sensing in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And likewise, an ARC import training in Tokyo, Japan. But the use and also the use of GIS and remote sensing for land transactions in Jakarta, Indonesia. She's one of my favorite lecturers, no, on continuing professional development, and also in a lot of fora and seminars. And our resource person is is currently the Secretary General of the Philippine Federation of Real Estate Practitioners, and also the Filipino Institute of Real Property Managers and Administrators. She just completed the course, and a BNI Business Network International as Secretary Treasurer 2021, and an NAR Realtor, no? In 2011 to the present, 2013 to the present, and formerly member and a board of trustees of REBAP, the Real Estate Brokers Association, and an accredited PRC lecturer since 2014 to the present. Okay. So, actually, what I can say to this lady is that she is a very, should I say, workaholic lady. Naku po, makita siya talagang traveling all over Luzon, or even out of Luzon in the Visayas and Mindanao. Napakarami niyang talagang trabaho, and she is actually practicing her profession. She is the favorite lecturer of almost all of the CPD providers on several issues regarding, ecology, GIS, and now likewise also the process in titling and documentation. I am pleased and honored to present to you, my dear friends, our resource person for this afternoon, si Engineer Eleanor Montilla Liganor, who is also likewise the Managing Director of the Asian Center for Entrepreneurship and Real Estate, and an esteemed colleague in the Faculty of Real Estate Management. So allow me to say hello to Professor Liganor. Hello, Prof.
Good afternoon, sir. Hello to everyone and to all your viewers. Welcome to it's Doc E.G Live.
Okay, thank you so much. Mabuti naman na pinayagan mo kami, because after this, one more session on a Sunday, and then we will move on a Friday na. Kasi kagaya kanina, iniinggit ako ng mga kapatid ko, nasa Tagaytay sila. Sabi niya, punta ka dito, how can I? We have a commitment to fulfill. di ba? Siguro
Opo.
after one more, on our 10th season, we will be transferring to Friday. Kaya magaling.
Mm.
Okay. Also, andito rin yung ating mga kaibigan sa Singapore na, no? Si Concepcion Rositer, kilala mo yun, ano?
Yeah.
And Melinda Lit, they are all here. And
Hello.
likewise, napakadami nating mga kasamahan noon. And let me say
Mhm.
hello also to Jeffrey Pu. I think Jeffrey Pu is in Myanmar or in Cambodia now, no?
Cambodia. I think
They
he's in
are
Cambodia
Cambodia
po.
ba? Cambodia, no?
Opo, Cambodia.
And they are, I think, responding the what you call exchange seminar in Cambodia. Now,
Mm.
hopefully, we will be going to Vietnam soon, anytime soon, to sign another memorandum of agreement with the Vietnamese, no, with the Vietnam real estate practitioners. But
Mm.
let me also say hello to Sam Ong, yung presidente ng IEA. Batiin natin
Yeah. Hi,
si
sir.
Sam. I think he
Yeah.
was so gracious enough to be with us, no, when on
Mhm.
our courtesy visit, no, with the Consul General of the Philippine Embassy. And si Lawrence Chong and Justin, ano, di ba?
Justin
They
Lee.
took
Yeah.
time out to bring us to the projects in
In
Singapore.
Singapore.
Kaya naman nakakatuwa, no? Kaya, well, I guess, kung meron kang gustong batiin mo muna bago ang mag-umpisa. And si
Yeah.
Richelle Torres Noinay. Wow, Noay, one of our students in HRE Lyceum of Alabang, right? Marami itong recruits.
Yeah. Yes, sir. With your
Okay.
permission, I would like to do a shout out to my batch 73 of the Cagayan National High School. We're going to have our 50th reunion next year. We met yesterday at Club Filipino. Thank you to FIABC for the permission for us to use the facility. So we met there, we discussed. So most of them are watching right now. Hello, good afternoon to my
Oh, shout
classmates.
out.
Yeah, shout out to all my classmates and batchmates. So there are more than 1,000 of us already attending the reunion for 2022.
Wow.
Yeah,
Also, BFF, nandito sa atin ang taga Cebu, no? Si Pe Lauk Lakio, the
yeah. Hi,
president of
Pe.
PFRESPI, Mandaue, no? And also our president for Laguna, si Nicanor Tapangco, President Nick Tapangco. And kanina binati ko si Cielo eh. Alam mo, happy birthday to your daughter mo ba yan? Cielo Azilo Laksamana. And to Rachel Guevara. Hi Rachel. Yan. O, napakaganda ng topic natin.
Mhm.
Efficient. Ayan, ha? Titling and documentation process.
Mhm.
Okay. So, Professor, Engineer, take it away.
Thank you, sir. May I request my slides to be posted, please? So, good morning again to all the viewers of its Doc E.G Live, Usapang Lupa at Negosyo. I'm pretty sure that most of us in real estate here are somehow involved already in the transfers and we get paid for it, right? This is the process to follow. But before we do this, let's have a short review of the torrent system. Next slide, please. So the torrent system is a system of defining ownership of land through registration and issuance of title. Next slide, please. What is the purpose of the torrent system? One is to quiet the title. What does this mean? Maingay ba ang titulo? You see, this process is done when there are several claimants to a property. So this is done legally and by due process. The ownership goes to the rightful owner upon the finality of decision of the court. Second is it provides the evidence of ownership to properties. This is through the issuance of a transfer certificate of title. Next is to identify the boundaries of land. This is supported by an approved geodetic survey, which results is the technical description of the land or property. In the next slide are the reasons why LRA issues land titles. First, there is a sale involved between a motivated seller and a motivated buyer, where both agree to execute a deed of conveyance, or what we call deed of absolute sale. Another reason is where there is a foreclosure of mortgage, wherein the ownership has to be consolidated to the bank's name. And third, there is a court order wherein ownership of a property has to be transferred to the deemed and rightful owner. Our discussion for today is on number one. There is a sale involved. So how is titling process done? Who is responsible in transferring the title to the buyer's name? In several instances, the buyer would not have the time to go through the process. This is where licensed brokers come into the picture. They take over the transfer of ownership under an authority, which is a notarized special power of attorney, or what we call SPA. So, again, this is done for a fee and not for free. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look at the government organization's structure for better appreciation of the roles of each. Next slide, please. The Register of Deeds, which is found below here in this slide, are the field offices of the Land Registration Authority, which is on the second. We have RDs in cities and municipalities that services the registration and issuance of titles and any other form of registration such as mortgage, liens, adverse claims to the title. The Land Registration Authority is under the Department of Justice. So I have to put emphasis on this because I was surprised that there are brokers who didn't know that the RD is reporting directly to LRA and LRA is reporting directly to the Department of Justice. So what are the mandates of LRA? First is to register transactions on titled and untitled land. So we say, akala ko nag-i-issue lang sila ng title. What is untitled land? So this is when there's an untitled land whose petition for titling is on process. Okay. Second is they register transactions on personal property and chattels. Third, they provide information on titles and registered documents. Next slide, please. In this slide, there are real estate transactions where documentation and document transfers and movements happen up until title transfer or transfer of ownership is done. So we have here sale, purchase or acquisition, we have exchange, joint venture, extrajudicial settlement of estate, donation, land use conversion, and others. So I am only referring to the sale transactions where I was involved in my 10 years of experience as a licensed broker. It is in this premise that we need to know each government agencies we are going to deal with to complete these transactions. Next slide, please. First up is the BIR, or the Bureau of Internal Revenue. This is where we pay taxes like the capital gains tax, which is 6%, documentary stamp tax, which is 1.5%, and creditable withholding tax for corporations. This is also where the tax identification number of both sellers and registers need to be verified and to register the sale transaction. Second is the city or municipal treasurer. This is where we pay our transfer taxes, where the rate is 75% of 1% of the selling price. Well, that is here in Metro Manila. But last Friday, I was surprised that the Taguig City is charging 60% of 1% of the selling price. To my surprise, so all other municipalities and cities of Metro Manila where I transacted the transfer is lahat halos 75% of 1% of the selling price. But anyway, this is something new. Masaya yung client ko on this. Okay? Next is the Registry of Deeds. We call it Registry of Deeds. Okay? And the person managing it is the registrar or the Register of Deeds, which processes the transfer of the ownership of the real estate from the seller to the buyer. And lastly, we have the assessor's office, which processes and issues tax declaration in the name of the new owner of the property, or also for those securing certified true copy of the tax declaration of existing owners. Next slide, please. These government agencies were created to implement the provisions of specific laws. For example, for BIR, their mandate is the National Internal Revenue Code, or NIRC. This is embodied in RA 8424. And then recently we have the train law, which is all positive for us, right? Second, we also have local taxation, which is separate from the national taxation of the BIR. This is under the jurisdiction of the local government unit, which implements RA 7160. Among the local taxes imposed are the transfer tax. Again, I mentioned early on that Taguig is totally different. And the real property tax, which is the role of the city and municipal treasurer. Third, we have in case of RD, okay, Register of Deeds and the Assessor's Office, they collect processing fees for the processes of registering the property, transfer of property, and the issuance of new certificate of title and tax declaration, respectively. Next slide, please. Before we proceed, please take note that the first ownership of a parcel of land is issued an original certificate of title, or OCT. Konti na lang ang nakikita nating OCT ngayon, except of course for those reclaimed areas who eventually will be issued original certificate of title. Okay? So subsequent issuances from the original certificate of title is known as transfer certificate of title, or TCT. Next slide, please. Time and again, there is only one proof or evidence of ownership under the torrent system, and this is the certificate of title, original certificate of title, or transfer certificate of title. Okay? I'm just surprised that some of us or some of my colleagues in the business would say, meron naman akong tax deck. That's enough proof as or evidence as proof of ownership. Lagi ko pong sasabihin, tax declaration is not proof of ownership, but it is proof that you have been paying your RPT regularly. Okay? The Register of Deeds prepares two sets of the title. The original copy is safe kept by the RD, and the duplicate, which we call owner's duplicate, is issued to the owner of the property. Some practitioners would come to me and message me, Ma'am, pwede naman tax declaration kasi na-survey na namin. I always tell them, hanggang kahit na-survey, kahit may tax deck ka, kahit nagbabayad ka ng amilyar, kung yung survey mo hindi pa approve, tapos wala ka pang petition for titling na final sa court, and wala ka pang title na i-issue under your name, there is no decree by virtue of an order by the LRA or the Department of Justice, then that is not your ownership. Okay? But you have possession to the property. You possess it, but you do not own it. Okay po? So wag na pong makulit. Okay? Ang lagi kong tinatanong, why in the first place are these questions elevated to me as a fellow broker? These questions are coming from brokers, no? Nasusurprise lang ako. I hope no broker would come to me and say na may tax declaration naman ako, that's proof of ownership. Okay pa? Next slide, please. We also have proof of ownership for condominium, which is the condominium certificate of title. Take note that the ownership to the condominium is absolute to the owner. Okay? So pag sinabi mo, I own a condominium unit, I have a title to it, yes. The title is about the four corners of your unit only. While the ownership to the land where the condominium is built is undivided and shared ownership by all condo unit owners, depending on the size of their units and depending on what is stipulated in the master deed with restrictions, which is registered with the Register of Deeds. Next slide, please. Now, let me tell you a story. Okay, in this slide, there are two medical practitioners. One is selling his property to the other. And since both are busy being frontliners in this pandemic, so it happened recently during 2 years back, okay? It's not 2 years na or more than 2 years na po ang pandemic. They decided to seek the services of a licensed broker. So in this slide, you will see this lady holding on to my license. License ko po yan. I just superimposed the picture of my child when she was 5 years old para lang walang makitang details. Next slide, please. Whether you are the seller's broker or the buyer's broker, we have to conduct due diligence. You might ask, Ma'am, ano po yun? Parang bagong term yan. So what is due diligence? And why should a broker do this? Well, according to Google and Investopedia, due diligence is an investigation, audit, or a review performed to confirm facts or details of a matter under consideration. So in this case, we have to check on properties. Yung titulo ng lupa, we have to check on that. Okay? What we are referring here is our professional services being sought because we ensure the seller and the buyer that their transactions shall be smooth and eventually perfected because we perform due diligence for both of them. Now, let me share you how I conduct due diligence. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Let's start with the property location. Most of us in the real estate industry conduct site inspection or ocular of the property. I term this as an environmental scan para maiba lang, okay? So let us check on the exact location of the property on the ground. Who knows, the property that's being sold to our client is located on the clouds pala or on the river beds. So we really have to check the exact location of the property on the ground. Second, take note on the actual land use. Is it residential, agricultural, commercial, institutional, and industrial? You might ask, why do we need to ask this? Or why do we need to take note of this? Because one of the reasons is if our client, who happens to be a developer, would want to have a development, a residential development in the area, and the property is currently classified as agricultural, then we need to recommend that there should be a land use conversion order. Okay? Next is we have to check on the frontage of the property. I'm also surprised when I ask when some of the brokers would ask me, why do you keep on saying about the frontage? What is this frontage all about? So we talk about frontage when the property is fronting a road. So if it is fronting a road, how many meters does that property line have? Because it's also very important to our clients, especially developers, to take note of the frontage. Makitid ba o malawak ba? Because if they develop subdivisions, I think most of our developers would consider at least 50-meter frontage. Okay? And then one of the things that we have to check is what is the orientation? Is it facing sunrise or sunset? We cannot assume sometimes that our clients do not know anything about orientation, but most of our Chinese friends would always ask, what is the orientation of the property? Is it sunrise, sunset? So we have to consider that in our ocular. Okay, then what about the neighborhood? What's going on? So when we talk about neighborhood, if you're buying a property which is surrounded by several land uses or highest and best use as others claim, you have to take note of it. What is located on the left side, on the right side, sa likod, at saka sa harap or across the road? It is very important, especially if you already know the objective of your client. Again, let's go back to a client who is a developer. The developer would always want their projects located in very good areas, specifically those that are residential areas, where there is less transactions already, no more land use conversion, no more uh, how do you call this, feasibility study, especially if the vicinity is already residential in use. Okay, so you have to take note of the neighborhood. What is going on in the neighborhood? What are the notable landmarks on the vicinity? It's not like what are your neighbors up the present. No, we also have to go farther the property. We can talk about 5 kilometers radius from the property or more. So on our way to and from the property, when we do ocular inspection, we have to take note of notable landmarks. How far is this property from these landmarks? Write all Write everything down in your notes. I was always telling, and I keep telling my broker friends, don't leave your house or home without having a notebook inside your bags, because notebooks or a certain pad of paper, 10 pieces probably of pad papers you should bring with you, so that as you go along your travel, or as you go along, you traverse the area where you're towards the property that you're going to visit, you already have noted the land uses or the notable landmarks in the vicinity. Now let's go to the documents. You need to get this from the property owner: the title, tax declaration, the lot plan, ID of the owners, the tax identification of the owners, proof of payment of RPT or real property tax po or amilyar. The TCT, tax deck, RPT needs to be verified or authenticated. Okay? The TCT, when I talk about authentication, we have to do a trace back. Pag sinabi, ma'am, ano po yung trace back? You go to RD, get a certified true copy of the previous title. Current title, the previous title, or up and down until its original certificate of title. Well, it depends on the situation. If you're dealing with a big time developer, you really have to do due diligence up, down, or up until, or down the original certificate of title, because this is where you will see the history of the property. So we have to safeguard the the situation of our clients, right? And then you get a certified true copy. You have to pay for this. Some of my broker friends would say, the property I'm currently working on is in Cebu. I cannot go to Cebu to get a certified true copy of the cancelled titles. Again, to my dear brokers and sellers or fellow practitioners, you can secure certified true copies of the titles anywhere you are in the Philippines. So I recently secured a certified true copy of a property in Lucena City. That's where I keep going at the moment, because I have a huge property there. I'm managing a huge property of a client. So I was able to get or secure a certified true copy of the title here in Mandaluyong, where I live. Ang dali po. You just, Mandaluyong RD is very near my place. So, isang ano lang, isang less than a kilometer, I am there. So it's very easy. And the duration for them to issue your certified true copy, before kasi nasa more than a week or so, no? But today, the recent one I got, they were able to process it in just 2 days. So madali na lang po. So don't worry about doing your trace back for the properties you wanted to manage, or the properties you're managing for your clients. Okay? And then you have to review the certified true copies of your title. Take note of it, okay? Check also on the title if there is an R next to the TCT number. This means the TCT was reconstituted. Let's discuss that later on. And then you also have to verify the authenticity of the tax declaration from the assessor's office. What are these annotations that you can find at the back of the tax declaration? You see, there are instances that the original copy of the TCT cannot be found at the vault before. Nasa red title. We're talking about red title. It is lost, or the RD would say, we cannot find it, we cannot locate it. So what happens is the client who wants to have annotations go to the assessor office and have this annotated. Anything, yung list pendants, yung mga comprehensive agrarian reform, they're annotated at the back of the tax declaration. So it's also very important to authenticate the tax declaration from the assessor's office. Ang tanong, may nafe-fake bang tax declaration? Meron po. So I've worked with 3 taipans over the past 40 years of experience, and in one of my employers, we found out that the tax declarations sought by one of their employees or previous employees were all fake. So it's very unfortunate that during that time when I was there, I had to find it out. And then we really found out it's fake, because if you try to secure a copy from the assessor's office, from the different assessor's office where their inventory are located, lahat po ng tax declaration nila fake. That's the reason why today our assessors are very, very careful in issuing tax declaration, certified true copy of tax declaration. Nobody can just secure a certified true copy of tax declaration without an authority because they're already following or implementing the Data Privacy Act. Okay, so unlike before, punta ka lang sa assessor's office, makakakuha ka na lahat ng makukuha mo. Okay, next slide please. Now, let's take a look at the last two digits of the TCT number. So this is for the red title. I'm mentioning this because we still have lots of red titles in the Philippines. Okay, so the last two digit of this title is 21. Okay, and this 21 is the page number as you find it on the upper right portion of the title. So, tanong nyo, ma'am, para saan ba yung last two digits of the page number? The page number is the artist index or reference. If they are not the same, okay, if the last two digits of the title is not the same as the page number of the title found on the upper right hand of the title, then there is a possibility that there's an ongoing problem, or probably, or most probably, the title is fake. Okay? Serial number of the TCT is pre-numbered, so it's always there. No, it's applicable again only for red titles. While LRA targeted to complete the digitization of the red titles to blue titles by September 2018, the red titles still remain valid. Why? You might ask. Akala ko ba digital na tayong lahat? So, because there are still property owners who refuse to comply to this directive for sentimental reasons. Parang kami ng husband ko in 2018, when this was already implemented by the LRA, we had to talk. And while it is me who do not want to have a change of the red to blue, I decided later that how can I talk about this in my CPD lectures if I myself am not immersed on the process. So, kahit anong sentimental reason na yan, my husband said, you have to do it so that your credibility will not be questioned. So, nagawa ko din po. Okay? And at the same time, there are properties or land whose technical descriptions are characterized as open polygons. What does this mean? Ma'am, ano po yung polygon? Okay, I'll show it to you in the next slide. Next slide, please. Here. So if you try to manually or digitally plot the technical configuration of the property and all the defined points, okay, we have 1.1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 1 are connected. This is what we call polygon or a closed polygon. Now, on the other hand, the picture below, okay, when 2 points do not connect, as shown in this illustration, we describe this as an open polygon. Sabi nga nila, ma'am, polygon is closed. Why are you talking about open polygon? Just to put emphasis that your property should be a polygon. Now, since it doesn't connect to each other, then it is an open polygon, okay? So until this is resolved, it cannot be transformed to a blue title. This is basically one of the reasons why LRA would not accept your titles to be converted to blue, because you still have a problem by not connecting 2 points. You have connected 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. However, your 4 to 1 cannot be connected, and this is an issue. You might ask, how do we resolve it? Then you have to undergo a resurvey and ensure that the property lines are defined so that you can close this, and eventually your property will become blue. Okay? Now, once the resurvey is done, the corrected technical description will have to be approved by the Land Management Bureau, and the new technical description needs to be forwarded to the LRA for the issuance of either a new title with a corrected technical description or a mere annotation of the corrected technical description at the back of the title. Next slide, please. Here are the samples of both the red and the blue titles with some highlighted features. Both has judicial phone number, they have serial numbers, both have LRA watermarks. Of course, what's obvious is the watermarks on the red. The blue one is, you cannot find it, but there's a story I will mention later, okay? Red borders and blue borders with a specific style. Sasabihin natin, hindi nyo talaga pwedeng copyin kasi ano yan, may style yan. And then we have a red seal for the red title, and we have a QR code and barcode for the blue title. The quality of the paper of the TCT has fibers, and in using UV lights, the paper will glow. Yung UV light po, you try to put it like 6 inches away from you and try to light it, makikita nyo po iba po yung glow. Hindi po siya opaque tulad ng mga ibang papel, or even if you use substance 24 of the blue title, because blue title does not use substance 24. They're using a special kind of paper. Okay, so pag sinabi substance 24 yung pinakamahal sa bookstore, pwede na yan gawan, pwede nang i-fake yung title. Unfortunately, hindi po pwede. Okay, so the serial number of the RD should be the same as the owner's duplicate. Hindi pwede magkaiba niyan. The moment nagkaiba siya, again, for the red titles, it is fake. And you will say, can you identify a fake from a non-fake or from a real one? Definitely. And there's another seminar where we can do that. But definitely, this is only true to the red titles. Because for the blue one, the blue titles, we can't do it anymore. Actually, early on in 2018, I have friends from the LRA. I went there and I told them, anytime of a fake na yan. And, I offended them. Because sa hirap daw ng pinagdaanan nila to come up with the QR code, with the barcode and the serial code here, and there is the titling number which is totally different from the previous ones. So of course I asked for forgiveness, because sometimes if the red title usually couldn't be faked, all of a sudden it can be faked already. So I would think that any time. No? So I told them, anytime mafe-fake yan. And medyo na-offend sila. I hope it's not gonna be faked. Okay? Kasi sabi ko nga sa kanila, you see, the database or the website of Malacanang was hacked, the website of the White House was hacked. So the databases of our blue titles, okay, which is stored somewhere else in the Philippines and outside of the Philippines, one day we will be surprised, is also hacked. But of course, I was assured by my friends in the LRA that they are so extra careful about it. Then it is, how do you call it? They have a term, no? I hope I can recall. Seamless, okay? The word seamless is, I will always pray for that, because my properties are already in the database in a blue copy title, okay? So let's proceed. Let's go back to due diligence. Next slide, please. Let's first touch on a property for sale in residential project by a developer. So this is when we do project selling, right? Okay. Does the project have license to sell at the time of selling? If none, then there is a violation by the developer. If all of us, licensed brokers or licensed real estate practitioners or accredited salesperson, are knowledgeable of PD 957, then we know that we should not sell properties of developers whose license to sell is not yet released or approved. If you try to sell something or a project of a developer via social media, in your social media account without the information of the developer, you are putting into a compromised situation the developer. Take note, the developers are where our inventory are coming from. Okay, so the mistake of one posting a for sale property in her social media, knowing that the property does not have a license to sell, you are already putting the developer as a violator of PD 957. Hindi po kayo ang nagkasala dito. It is the developer who has committed the mistake. But since we are all naive about it or we're ignorant of the law, pinost natin. Kaya I always keep telling my salespersons, my broker friends, and everyone that do not post anything unless you are sure that the property is issued license to sell. So you might ask, did this ever happen to you or your client? Yes, it is. So it happened. I have a client in MOA. Without their knowledge, the sales group posted Chinese characters along the MOA area, only to find out that my friends from the shoot, because I came from HLURB, I worked there for 12 years, they noticed a for sale sign because one of them is Chinese who can read the characters. So they had to go through that signage sign direction, and they found out that this was a direction leading to the property for sale, which license to sell is not yet released. So magkano po ang na-penalize? 23 million. And where did they post this for sale sign? Aside from that signage, no, leading to the property, some of them posted it in their social media. I kept warning my friends that the HLURB, or they should now, no, they're very strict. Before, they did not have the time to look into the social media of their friends, but now they're into that. Okay, so most of them are already directed to look into social media accounts because they need to apprehend those sellers posting projects whose license to sell is not yet released. Okay, violation po kasi yan. Okay. If the project is already issued license to sell, then proceed with the transaction. The next thing to determine is, are you dealing with a licensed broker or an accredited salesperson? PRC licensed broker and PRC accredited salesperson. This is very important. Again, I stress this because it happened to a friend, the sister of my best friend who worked in Saudi Arabia, when on vacation here in the Philippines, was sold a property in Cavite. It's one of the top developers, no? And then all the thing that she knew was that on her third year of payment, she will now be awarded the property for occupancy. When she came back to the Philippines, she resigned from her Saudi work. She brought everything from her Saudi house to the Philippines. She found out that she cannot yet occupy the property because the only thing she paid is the down payment. And because I knew who the president of that developer is, I had to make an appointment with the president, only to find out that the broker who lured the sister of my best friend to buy a property is not a licensed broker. To the surprise of the developer, sabi ng president, I didn't know you are not licensed. Because we all know that in 9646, I think it is section 32, no? That if you are involved in project selling, the person supervising the sale should also be a licensed practitioner. I hope I am right, Doc E.G, about the section 32 thing, okay? So take note, whether it's project selling or general brokerage, do not deal with unlicensed sellers. This is what we term as very active colorum sellers, okay? Now, next slide, please. While I keep telling, let us not deal with colorum sellers, okay? Here are some guidelines. Is the property title? Is the title authentic? Or have you authenticated it? Nagpa-trace back ka ba? Nag-title verification ka ba? If the subject property for sale is owned by more than one owner, are all the owners willing to sell their property? If not, then there's a problem. Okay. Now, another question is, are all the owners alive? So if one of the owners would say, hindi, namatay na po yung isa o namatay ng dalawa, then there is a need to execute an extrajudicial settlement of estate among the surviving heirs. Okay. Now, if all owners are alive, the next thing to check with them while they're willing to sell their property is, what are the problems within the family? Because some say, yeah, I'm willing to sell, but I need to sell my portion for 1,000 per square, and my siblings can sell it at 500. Hindi po kasi ganon. Okay, so we have to deal with this when we do our due diligence for a property. Okay, now, should any of the owner refuse to sell the portion of the property, we need to inform our client about it, because our client, whether our client is the developer or a buyer, then we should inform them, because we need to get their go signal to proceed with the negotiation and to convince the part owner who is not willing to sell. Baka gamitin natin ng charms natin to convince them. Okay? Now, assuming all owners are willing, the next thing to do is to check on the annotation at the back of the title. This is why I always keep telling, mag-authenticate tayo. Let's get a certified true copy of the title para makita natin yung annotation sa likod ng titulo na nasa RD, because some of the owners will not submit their owner's duplicate only to have that annotation stamp at the back of the title. Kaya the best way to do is get a certified true copy from the RD, because nandyan po yung lahat ng kwento ng property. Meron ba siyang utang sa bangko? So is there a mortgage? Okay? Is it encumbered? Do you see a lease pendants at the back of the title? Meaning, pag sinabing lease pendants, may kaso. There is a case filed either against the owner or on the property. Baka meron dapat isettle. Okay? And any encumbrance or mortgage annotated can be resolved by way of completing payments of the loan and bank, and then the bank will issue a certificate of mortgage clearance. For lease pendants, this means there's a case filed against the owner. Since we all know that the judicial process in the Philippines do not have definite time frame to resolve legal cases, then we have to inform our clients again. Unless our client would say, let us buy the property, including the problems. So wala na tayong magagawa. We have to do as our client wishes to. Okay? Next, is the property tenanted or are there informal settlers? So just this morning, I had a long talk with a group, again on Viber, because there's this property that is currently occupied by informal settlers. And the thing is, the reason why they called me or they had a meeting with me is because they wanted to know how much of the property of my previous bank employer was I able to resolve in terms of informal settler settlement. And then, of course, I said, I cannot carry my own bangko, no? But I said that the properties that I resolved during my time with the bank are now very nice real estate development projects. In other words, the tenancy was resolved. The informal settlers were finally, well, in the settlement of informal settlers, mahirap madugo, pero there are ways for us to convince our informal settlers brothers or sisters. Okay, another thing to check is the real property tax updated, because this is very important in the transfer. This, Next is, does the name of the owner encoded in the title matches with the government issued ID of the person who claims to be the rightful owner? So you need to double check this. If there is a mismatch, then let's investigate further. It happened to me during the pandemic. Okay. The apparent broker of this client, gave up because hindi pala siya marunong. So the owner had to call me and I took over, only to find out that there was a mismatch on the ID and the name stipulated in the transfer certificate of title. So what did I do? Then I had to get the special power of attorney. I have to get the deed of donation, which was not annotated at the title. So yun lang naman. You just have to know how to go about it, and it's easy as ABC. Okay? Ang importante lang, you have to ensure that nagmamatch yung ID ng owner doon sa doon sa pangalan ng nakalagay sa TCT. Kung magkaiba man siya, then there must be a transaction prior before this sale that you are trying to deal with another person is legit. So in that note, my client got deed of donation from his parents, but they forgot to have it annotated and to have the title transferred in his name. So when they sold it, that was a question. I said, we have to check the deed of donation, and the deed of donation was legit. It was actually submitted to the RD. Hindi lang talaga po naasikaso ng annotation. Okay? Now we go to the scenario where the motivated seller and the motivated buyer agree to proceed with the transaction. upon the completion of our due diligence. Okay, next slide, please. Hi, Rosa. Okay, this is where the title of my talk is. Okay, let us proceed with the documentation and titling process. Next slide, please. The first step is to ensure that the complete documents are in place. So my best practice here is I use a clear folder and insert each document in every page for easy reference. So I know there is a lot. I used to have a matrix of this, but it's not readable. So I'd rather use this because I think everyone can see it on the slides, right? So here are the documents which needs to be prepared. Okay, the TCT, original and certified true copy. Since we are still in the start of the documentation process, there's no need for us to get the original copy of the title because, it's very dangerous if we keep it. We don't have a safety deposit box in the house. We cannot say what's going to happen tomorrow. So I would always tell my clients, kunin ko na lang po muna yung copy. And the original, you keep it until I already need it. But some of my clients, or most of my clients, insist at the moment, I'm so scared. I have 6 titles with me here. And since there's no work tomorrow, Tuesday, takbo na naman ako. No? So I need to work on this. Next is tax declaration. Now, if you're selling or the property involved is a land only, then you just have to get a tax declaration of the lot. Now, if there is an improvement on the lot, then you have to secure a tax declaration on the improvement. And we will have to secure certified true copies later. I will tell you more about this in the next slide. Okay, so next is you have to have the real property tax updated. Amilyar po ito. You do not need the original copy. You just need a copy, as a photocopy of the document. And then we need to have a tax clearance for the current year. The tax clearance is a clearance stating that the amilyar or the real property tax of the property is dated or updated siya current year. Okay po? And then check on the government issued IDs of the seller, the buyer, and then the issuer of the certificate, cert, special power of attorney, and the transferor. Okay? So their IDs should bear 3 signatures each. Okay po? Yung ID po ng issuer of the SPA, yung ID po ng broker, current ID po yun, and it has to be signed 3 times. Okay? Another document that we need is the notarized deed of absolute sale. I would always request for 6 copies. Sometimes the lawyer would say, ang dami naman ma'am, 2 lang po. While 2 is enough though, because ang point ko lang kasi is, I request for 6 because the seller would want a copy even before transactions proceed. The buyer would want a copy before transactions proceed. And then, of course, the lawyer who notarizes it gets a copy, right? So kung 2 lang yung bibigay ng lawyer, kulang na po tayo. Precisely why I request 6 because the moment you submit this to the BIR will get another copy. And then, of course, the BIR original copy, stamped BIR original copy will get back to us. But still, to be safe, we have to get extra copies so that at the end of the day, we do not go and rush and secure another original copy. Okay? Mas mabuti, better safe than sorry. Next is the acknowledgement receipt of the payment of the property. This is very, very important because BIR would want to prove that there is an actual sale. The title was handed to the buyer and the payment from the buyer was given to the seller. Kailangan po yan signed by both parties again. Okay? Now, if the seller is a corporation, we need a Securities and Exchange Corporation registration and articles of incorporation. We also need a board resolution and a secretary's certificate stating the authority given to the signatory of the deed of absolute sale. Most of us would say tama na yung SEC cert or board resolution. But for me, I would require both because a secretary's certificate cannot be issued without a board resolution, right? So I would always tell my clients, board reso and SEC cert, please. So they would say, ang strict ko daw na teacher. Sabi ko, opo, I'm a strict teacher. So if any of the parties is abroad, okay, kailangan a consularized or an apostille SPA is needed. Pag sinabing consularized, the country where the title or the authority is coming from is not in apostille agreement with the Hague who initiated the apostille thing, then dapat consularized SPA po. Now, if the country is recognized by the Hague Apostille Agreement, then Apostille SPA is enough. But again, in my recent experience here, I went to Tagaytay RD last week. Was it last week or the other week? There is this lady who was insisting that the deed of absolute, the SPA is an apostille because they have this yellow ribbon on it. May yellow ribbon na may seal naman po. Tapos nakalagay doon yung lawyer's name, lawyer's signature, but it did not mention the registry, the notarial registration of that lawyer from where the country came from. And our RDs are pretty smart. They said, like the consularized SPA, at the first page we have the red ribbon, right? Ganon din po ang apostille. So dapat maybe we should give an orientation to some of our friends later how an apostille SPA looks like. It has a red ribbon, but it has an apostille annotation at the back of that registration. Okay. Next is the certificate of management. If you're selling a condominium unit, okay, one of the requirements of the Register of Deeds is the certificate of management from the Condo Corp or HOA, Homeowners Association. This is so required because the RD wants to ensure that the seller is fully paid of their obligations to the building administrator or to the HOA prior to the transfer of the unit to the buyer. So they are protecting the buyers. I'm glad that most of the RDs are doing this at the moment. It's like they're in compliance with also PD 957, which is entitled Subdivision and Condominium Buyers Protective Decree. Kaya sabi ko, ano na tayo, we are trying to be in sync with all government agencies already when it comes to real estate transactions. So in essence, what I mentioned early on is the protection of the buyer, and the certificate of management needs to be notarized, okay? And the format varies by location. Pag sinabi, paano yun, ma'am? I thought all condominium corporations issue one and the same format for certificate of management. Hindi po. So again, let me mention my recent transaction from Pasig. The property is owned by Miss Universe. Okay? So, talaga pong Miss, sorry. Almost got the title Miss Universe. Okay? And the certificate of management did not contain the provisions of RA 4726, which is the Condominium Act. And the RD, who happens to be my student in the review class of the broker's exam, he came out and he said, Mom, I know you. I keep peeping from my office because I said, I know that lady. She was my teacher in my review class. So I had to come out and say, Mom, you were my teacher. Mrs. Liganor. Sabi, yes, I am Mrs. Liganor. And then he mentioned he is a lawyer. And then he told me, I'll give you a format and you have to change it, ma'am. This time ako naman teacher mo. So he did. And I went back to Miss Universe, and Miss Universe willingly had this certificate of management altered within the day. Ang bait talaga ni Miss Universe. Okay? So, thank you. If the RD of Pasig is watching, I'm sure he is because sabi niya lagi daw siyang nakakapanood. Sir, attorney, hello po. Thank you for watching. Okay. Now, so there you have it. The first stage of the process is there are 16 to 17 documents that need to be prepared. So, andito po lahat, no? It will vary though if it's not a corporation na re-reduce po yung number of documents. Okay? So, let's proceed with the next slide. The second step is I go to the assessor's office. By the way, before I proceed any further, the processes I am sharing to you today are the processes I perform. So this is my efficient and effective way process. okay? Because I have to write down additions to my slides, and I happen to have additions again for the Doc E.G live. That's why I said I have to revise. The first time I had one when I was invited by Filipino Homes, and then the second time around is with Doc E.G live. There's a new learning, so I had to impose it here again. Okay, so maswerte po yung mga watchers ng Filipino Homes and Doc E.G live. Okay, the second step that I do is I have to secure a certified true copy of the tax declaration, because almost always our clients would just give a photocopy, right? So what we need to have before going to the BIR is you secure a certified true copy of the tax declaration. Okay? And this is what you do. If you have a photocopy of the tax declaration, you go to the assessor's office and bring it with them. Bring it to them already. This time, there is a form that you need to fill up. Unlike before, pakita mo lang yung tax deck, wala ka ng form, kaibigan mo yung nasa front line, ang bilis-bilis makuha mo na. But this time, there's a form that we have to fill up. So it's nice. These are good developments in the land transaction processes. Okay? Now, the form will contain uh, data that you need to fill up. For example, the property index number. I recall a broker friend would call me, sabi, andito ako sa assessor, kailangan kong fill up yan yung property index number, hindi ko nakikita sa tax, sa TD. Tatawa na lang ako minsan. Okay? Hindi kasi kayo nagbabasa. Isang form lang po yan. You're just looking at the tax declaration. And all the tax declaration are now with property index numbers, which is found at the upper right side of the form. Kung hindi po nakikita sa upper right side, it might be located elsewhere. Baka binago lang nung munisipyo. Okay po? So you take note of that because you have to fill that up in the form provided by the tax assessor's office. And then the name of the property owner, the type of property, whether it's a condominium, house and lot, or sometimes it asks if it's agri or commercial. And then what is the purpose of the acquisition of that certified true copy of the tax declaration? They have to ask this because you have to support it with your authorization. Why are you securing this? Now, if I say the purpose of this acquisition is because there's going to be a sale from the seller to the buyer, then the next they will ask me is, where is your authority? So SPA ulit. Okay? And then how many copies do you need? So you have to be specific. How many copies do I need? Every time I do this, I need 2 copies. One, because the BIR gets it and doesn't return it already. It's their copy. You wouldn't know if when it gets to the RD might require a certified true copy. I experienced that. So I would always require, or I would always request for 2 sets. Okay, 2 sets of certified true copy of the tax declaration. And then, of course, you have to sign as the requesting party. You will have to indicate there your details. You are a broker, and this is your email address. This is your contact number. Then you will be required to pay a fee. Wala na pong libre ngayon. So you have to pay. And then the official receipt, you will have to give it to the assessor's office. Be sure to have it copied. There are assessors who would require the original copy. So it's important that you make a photocopy for your file. And then anyway, the original copy will be returned to you. But still, wag kampante, we have to make a photocopy just in case hindi na ibalik sa atin yung original copy. Okay? And then in return, when you give them the original copy of your official receipt, the assessor will provide you a claim slip for you to show when it is due for release. Okay? Now, take note that if the subject property is lot only, lot lang po ng tax declaration. Pero you still need one document. You have to secure a certificate of no improvement on the property. Okay? This has to be attached to the tax declaration. Pag sinabi mo, ma'am, ba't hindi mo inilagay doon sa first page ng slide mo? This is why exactly I'm telling you now on the second process, on the second step. If you are selling or you're negotiating for a lot only property, you have to have a tax deck for the lot only, and a certificate of no improvement also, which can also be secured from the assessor's office. Okay? However, if the property has a structure on it, hindi nyo na kailangan ng certificate of no improvement. Tax deck for the land and tax deck for the building or improvement na lang po. Okay. And then you might want to know, what is the turnaround time per municipality? Again, it varies. Okay. I had a very good experience because my friend, the municipal assessor of Silang Cavite, while I needed a different document, he was kind enough to accommodate me, knowing na senior na ako. Thank you, Assessor Dudes Desengaño of Silang Assessor's Office. So, anyway, for us to be able to secure a certified true copy of the tax deck, it depends now by municipality. They have a turnaround time or number of working days ranging from 5 to 20 working days. Well, it depends on how busy the city assessor or municipal assessor is. If they cover a lot of areas, busy sila, we have to understand. Okay? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We're now on step 3. Step 3. Okay. We now go to BIR and we proceed directly to the ONET, ONETT, or Officer of the Day. But even before proceeding, all BIRs now are on a pre-numbered um, assignment. No, so you cannot just go in, barge in, and cut the line and be the first to be attended to by the BIR. No, there are numbers already given at the front door. So you have to get a number, priority number we call it, and then when your number is called, you proceed to the officer of the day who will evaluate all the documents that you have with you. So basically, we have 10 documents here, okay, as shown in this slide. Then, if these are the things that the examiner needs or the officer of the day needs, ko-compute na po niya. However, may mga officer of the day na nagre-require pa ng marami. So, this can be more. That's the reason why I always advise all those involved in title transfers to have all the documents in their proper order in, how do you call this? Transparent folder. Para nakikita nyo, pag sinabing, kulang po ito, wala po yung certificate of the barangay ensuring that the owner is really a resident of this area. It happened to me in BIR 40 here in Quezon City. So sabi ko, wow, it's good I got one. And it was easy for me to flip the pages and get one and give it to the BIR 40. Okay po? So that's why this is not final. It will vary depending on the BIR you are dealing with. Kaya kompleto dapat ang dala nyo. Wag ho kayong magpakatamad. Ako, my husband would pity me because every time I do this for my clients, I have 2 heavy bags. Bag full of documents. Sabi ng husband ko, why can't you just bring one? And I said, but it is not complete. The other has the rest of the documents. He would just accompany me to the BIR audit department. And then, lo and behold, nakita niya, I needed one. Kaya sabi niya, siguro nakikita mong hihingan ka. Yes, always po, merong ganyan. Okay? Now, the moment the officer of the day at the ONET, officer of the day ONET division, finds the 10 documents improper, ko-compute na po niya yung capital gains tax, doc stamp tax, and the VAT if the property owner is a corporation. Okay po? And then he will issue a computation sheet which is found on this slide. Ito po yun. Okay? Now, this slide now, okay, it will tell you how much capital gains is going to be paid, doc stamp tax, and then sometimes the what do you call this? The VAT is also here. No? And then you'll have to get forms BI 1904. Okay, just a minute. Okay, and then BIR forms 1904, 60605. They're available at BIR also. And another practice, a best practice for me, is to check the updated zonal value of the property at BIR's website. Check it against the selling price. Kasi nabanggit ni Doc E.G kanina, the declaration on the deed of absolute sale will be either the zonal equivalent to the zonal value or the selling price, whichever is higher. Okay. If the selling price is lower than the zonal value, then the basis for the computation of the capital gains tax and the doc stamp tax is the zonal value. So one of my recent clients had the same concern. When she told me that her property she bought for 3.2, and I checked on the website of BIR and I found it's worth 4.2. Sabi ko, Madam, ang tax base po nito 4.2. And sabi niya, can you give me the computation and I'll send you a manager's check. So sabi ko, manager's check po payable to Land Bank. I will discuss that to you later. Okay, so I computed it for her. She sent me manager's check amounting to for the 4.2 million. She sent me 252,000 for capital gains and 63,000 for DST, manager's check addressed to the Land Bank. Why did I recommend Land Bank? It is because, again, best practice. It is because Land Bank is almost always located, is the bank almost always nearest to any government agency, and that happens to be the BIR. So if you go around Metro Manila, pag sinabi mong Land Bank ng Quezon City, ay nako, ng RDO 40, may Land Bank across. Even in Lucena, where I came from last week, sinabi ko, saan po yung Land Bank? Diyan lang, ma'am. Isang kembot lang po. So, I commend BIR Lucena, RDO 60, they're all very kind, very accommodating. Ang babait and very soft-spoken. Okay? So, let's go to the next slide, please. I'm showing here the forms that needs to be filled up. Okay, we have here BIR Form 1706 and 1600. This is for 1706 is for the capital gains tax, and 2000-0T is for the documentary stamp tax. These are no longer available in the BIR office in Pasig, Manila, Mandaluyong. So we are advised to go to a BIR website to print this, fill this up, print it, prepare 3 copies, and that's the time you go back to the Land Bank to pay this. Okay po? For Laguna and Quezon provinces, medyo manual pa rin po. So, I forgot to bring carbon paper. Carbon paper ba yun? Yung itim na ilalagay sa... so, I had to prepare 3 sets of the capital gains tax 1706 and 2000-0T. Imagine, nagkalyo-kalyo na yung daliri ko. You have to do this manually. That's why, for those going to the suburbs to deal with BIR, magdala na po kayo ng carbon paper ninyo po. Okay po, don't forget, unless you have the time, the luxury of time to fill up 3 forms of the 2 documents. Actually, 3 documents. I'll show you the next one. Next slide, please. I have here, let's go first to the payment form of 1605. Dito rin, 3 copies din ang fill upan nyo. Okay po. Now, let's go to BIR Form 1606, which is the withholding tax remittance return. This is used instead of BIR 1706 or the capital gains tax form when the seller of the property, who is an individual, happens to own a rental property which is the subject of sale. Pag sinabi, how did you know about it? Well, you knew about it because you already scrutinized and reviewed all the documents. And you happen to find out in the tax declaration that the improvement stipulated there on the tax declaration of the improvement is a leasing property. So alam na po natin. While the computation is practically 6% also, it would be better for you to have it done by the audit officer of the day. Okay, but in my transaction in Pasig by a very, very successful young man, ganun din halos, parang 6% din. It's a little over 6%, pero hindi masyadong bloated yung computation because 1606 ang BIR na mag-compute, and then the BIR even told me na the person who is supposed to pay this is the buyer. Of course, it's in the law, right? But at the end of the day, the seller of this leasing property should settle her unpaid taxes for the past years prior to the sale. So sinabi ko yun sa seller when we had a meeting, and sabi ng seller, habulin na lang daw siya ng BIR. Yun ang mga hindi natin dapat tularan. Okay? So I mentioned 1605 is the payment fee here. This is a payment fee for the transaction. 100 lang po ito. If you pay in the bank, you just pay 100. Now, while if you pay at the BIR, they will sometimes ask for you to attach a 50 pesos documentary stamp tax. So magiging 150 pesos na po yung babayaran nyo. Okay, so next slide please. This is the proof of certification fee paid at BIR. Ngayon, because everything is already digital, we are just going to pay 100 without the doc stamp tax na. Kaya medyo nakakaluwag na yun. Kasi 50 pesos is 50 pesos, di po ba? So, but the one recently I had a recent transaction with BIR QC, RDO 40. They just asked me to pay 100 pesos. Next slide, please. While still with the ONET division and after getting the computation sheet for the capital gains tax, the doc stamp tax, and after paying the 0605 transaction tax, the tax identification number of both the seller and the buyer must be validated. So what you have to do is show it to the next person next to the officer of the day so they can validate if the tax identification number of the seller and buyer are valid. Again, recently, one of my clients was able to secure a tax identification number. And then only to find out the BIR examiner called my attention because I have no knowledge that the tax identification number secured by my client was done by a fixer. So it could not be read in the database of the BIR. So I had to call my client, and syempre medyo pinagalitan ko. Sabi nga nila, strict ako, no? So I had to call his attention and I told him, never do that again because the BIR might think I encourage you to talk with fixers. So, but the BIR told me that we will not honor this number because it came from a fixer and this number is not registered with BIR. We will just assign your client a real number and you have to give this to him so that he can secure his tax identification card. Okay po? So again, do not deal with fixers, do not deal with color rooms. Okay po? Now, take note. You have to fill up BIR form 1904. Ito po yun, no? Ito, BIR 1904. While in Quezon, they do not recognize this. I still did it. Ang sabi nung BIR, ma'am, di na po namin nire-recognize yan. Sabi ko, ginawa ko na, pakistamp na lang verified. If it is really verified. So sabi niya, sige na nga. So they verified it. Okay, so verified, I included it in my list, in my compilation. True enough. If I did not do this, their manner of validation was kind of difficult. They have to print it over and over again for two, the seller and the buyer. Ang sabi ko, may 1904 na po dyan, dapat yan na po ang ginamit nyo. Sana makinig po kayo sa akin kasi teacher po ako. So natawa na lang sila. Because sayang yung papel, sayang yung printing material, yung machine, yung ink, at saka yung effort to print it. Di po ba? So, ayan, 1904 is real. Okay. So, in the 1904, what do you have to put or what do you have to indicate? You have to indicate the TIN number of the seller and the buyer. So, you have to prepare two po, no? Two 1904. One for the seller, one for the buyer. The address of the seller, address of the buyer, the name and signature and the contact details of the broker transferor, which is me. So, masyado na po akong popular in Metro Manila and in Luzon. So, refer the details po dito sa slides. Everything is here. This will guide you on how to fill up the 1904. Okay, next slide, please. Let's proceed to step number 4. Okay, so upon printing of the BIR Form 1706 or 1606 or 2000-0T and 0605, you proceed to the nearest BIR accredited bank to remit the tax payment. This is po yung sinasabi ko, I always recommend go to land bank because it is the nearest land bank to BIR offices ever. Nakita ko na po yan. I've gone around. Ang land bank talagang literally the nearest to BIR. So, if you're paying in cash, hindi na kayo natatakot to bring cash from BIR to land bank, right? Kasi ang lapit na lang po. Okay. So, the banks have prescribed form. Ito po yun. This is the land bank form. If you get to see it, I encircle the things that you have to fill up. So, you need to accomplish, again, 3 of these. While most of the bank forms are already carbonized, wala na kayong problema. Pero kailangan idiin nyo pa para tumagos po hanggang dun sa third copy of the form. Okay? Now, take care in accomplishing the bank form. The details are shown on the slides. The TIN of the buyer, name of the buyer, BIR, RDO, office number. Why? Because the capital gains, the doc stamp tax, they will all be registered under that BIR. And this proof of payment will make it, okay, will facilitate the transfer or the execution or the issuance of the electronic certificate authorizing registration. Okay? And then you should know the BIR account number where you are dealing with. Okay po? And then BIR form number or code. You have to ask the security guards of Land Bank. Sometimes they will say, ma'am, nandyan na po yan sa tabi. Kopyahin nyo na lang. Don't be scared or don't be ashamed to ask the security guard. Sila po kasi ang trained on that, no? They will teach you, they will even teach you how to fill up the form. And then, of course, the name of the bank, you will put it here. If this is Land Bank form, then I put LBP, Land Bank of the Philippines. And then be sure you know the BIR RDO number where you are transacting. Okay po? Example, a friend of mine in BIR Manila, isang building po, ang dami pong BIR. May 38, 39, 40, 41. Manila po yan, no? And my friend who happens to be there said, she committed a mistake na ilagay niya doon sa land bank form na to, ang BIR RDO 41 when she transacted earlier with 42. Bayad na po yung capital gains. Take note, okay? So pagdating po sa BIR, because you're going to return to the BIR all of these forms, a copy of these forms, and proof of the bank payment, sabi ng BIR daw sa kanya, mali ka. You paid it in the wrong BIR. You addressed the payment to the wrong BIR. So tumawag siya sa akin, ano daw ang gagawin niya? Umiiyak-iyak na siya. Because the one thing that will happen is, if you paid it to the wrong BIR, if you indicated the wrong BIR number, and you paid it to the land bank will direct the payment to that BIR RDO number. And you might question the BIR, ang tagal ng e-car ko. Well, because you did the wrong entry. Okay po? So immediately I advised my friend, pumunta ka ng BIR, ng land bank right away, write an apology letter, and ask them to revise the payment while the amount has not yet been transmitted to BIR head office for verification. Siyempre, napagalitan po siya ng land bank. Pero sabi ko, you have to take the consequence of your acts. You were not in sync with what you were doing. So, wag po niyong kakalimutan yan. Okay? Now, you have to attach the BIR forms and proof of payment. Okay? Sabi ko kanina, pwedeng cash or manager's check lang. Hindi po pwede ang company check. And then, do not leave the bank. Okay, the bank will collate, no? Iko-collate niya yan, 3 pages yan eh. Kukunin niya yung 2 kopya, mag-i-issue siya sa inyo ng 1 kopya and the original copy of the bank receipt, of the bank form. Do not leave the bank if you have not checked whether there is a stamped paid and signature of the teller who took your payment. Huwag po kayong uuwi hanggang hindi po nyo na-check that it is stamp paid. Ito po yun. I am using the cursor to show that there's a stamp paid received by the bank cashier or the bank teller. Okay? Don't leave kasi pag umalis po kayo ngayon and then you return tomorrow and the bank teller did not report, ang laki-laking problema niyo. So, verify niyo po lahat. Ito po yung trabaho natin. Kailangan very meticulous tayo sa mga steps natin. Now, let's go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. We go to BIR Form 1801. Okay, BIR Form 1801 is the estate tax return. This is what is used in the transfer of ownership from the decedent, yung namatay doon sa nabubuhay na kamag-anak. Okay? So pag sinabing, paano ang process? It's the same process. It's just that you're going to use a different form. In this case, because may namatay at extrajudicial settlement yung pinag-uusapan, there's no exchange of money. There's just an exchange of ownership. The ownership of the person who passed away will be transferred to the surviving heirs. But the process of handling this is online. Online nyo po siya fill upan. Okay? And then, in this online, everything kasi based on the computation of the ONET or the examiner, yun din po yung lalabas dito. And that's what you're going to settle in this form online. Be sure that you're going to pay the estate tax. Diba? So pag sinabing, how did you do that? Well, when the computation was done by the BR, I recently did that in Quezon City. When I got the computation by the examiner, I went to Land Bank right away. The amount of estate tax I paid was 1.56 million pesos. And later on, I had to fill up the estate tax return, and this is mailed directly to BIR, and a copy of which I submitted to the BIR examiner for their file. Okay po, so don't forget, pag extrajudicial po, iba pong form ang ginagamit natin. Okay, next slide please. Another recent addition is I was dealing with agricultural properties, 2 in a row, okay? So there is a need for a land use clearance, or what is popularly known as DAR clearance. Actually, the form itself says land use clearance, but for easier understanding amongst us, sellers in the business, we call it DAR clearance. So this is only a requirement if you are talking about agricultural properties. How would you know if this is an agricultural property again? Well, it is stipulated in the tax declaration. Di natin makikita sa title, but it is in the tax declaration. So I'm sharing in this slide the checklist of requirements. Ano ba yung cursor ko nawala? Ito. Okay, so these are the requirements. It's a two-pronged process. First, you have to apply requests and attach the copy of the deed of absolute sale and Xerox copy of the title. And then, when a certification is issued by the MARO, Municipal Agrarian Reform Officer, you have to come back and submit all of these things. A certified true copy of the title, tax declaration, affidavit of the transferor, affidavit of the buyer. The affidavit is actually affidavit of non-tenancy, okay? And then certificate of aggregate land holdings of both the seller and the buyer. And then if they also need the certificate of marriage of the seller, kasi marami na pong nagko-complain dahil marami pong mga sumasakabilang bahay na. So one of the requirements of DAR is certificate of marriage. To my surprise, but well, anyway, I did it. Okay. Next slide, please. Next step. So we're on step 5. We are still waiting for the processing of the certificate authorizing registration. So pag nakabayad na po tayo, we go back to BIR and we submit all the documents para ma-issuean na po tayo ng certificate authorizing registration. Pag dinanong nyo, ma'am, mabilis ba to? Well, again, hindi po mabilis. Matagal. Why? Because take note, since we paid in the bank, since the Duterte administration, no cash payments are allowed at BIR offices. Hindi na sila nagtatanggap ng cash payments except for cash payments 20,000 and below. This is what I learned from Lucena BIR last week. Okay? So pag sinabi nila, ma'am, yung babayaran mong tax po kasi 300,000 sa land bank na po kayo. Sabi ko, yeah, I already. Pero kung 20,000 ma'am dito, tatanggapin namin. Ayaw po kasi ng previous president of the Philippines. So true enough, talagang Yung ating red tape kasi ay bumabagal dahil diyan sa mga pinag-uusapan o pag-uusapan sa ilalim ng tulay, sa ilalim ng mangga, yung mga gano'n po, 'di po ba? So it's a nice development since the previous administration. Okay. So when is the e-car, electronic certificate authorizing registration? This is electronically generated. Unlike before, ginagawa manually. Now it's electronically generated once your payment of the taxes are cleared with BIR head office. It goes down to the BIR where the property is located, and e-car will be issued to you. Okay, so dalawa po yan. 2 copies, original copy and the duplicate copy. So wag kayong magsasabi na, "Ma'am, dito 6 months ako." Well, don't worry. I experienced that prior to the Duterte administration. I experienced 6 months po talaga ako. But this time, they're giving us a turnaround time, which is 20 working days to 35 working days. But although sabi naman nila, you give us a call, baka mas mapadali, depende sa dami ng transaction. So we'll always give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? So hindi natin ma-establish talaga yung turnaround time. It varies by BIR. Next slide, please. We are on the 6th step. Okay. Prior. Okay, thank you. And the 6th step is we go to the treasurer's office. While waiting for the e-card to be released, you have to keep moving. No? So punta ka na sa treasurer's office, you go pay the tax clearance, transfer tax. Okay, transfer tax. But the one thing that they will locate with you first, or they will request from you, is a copy of the tax clearance. Kaya doon pa lang sa first slide natin, I already asked you to have a copy of the tax clearance. If you don't, then secure a tax clearance certificate. You're just going to pay 200. Again, depende po ito sa munisipyo. Okay? Then a tax clearance certificate will be given to you. Then you go to the treasurer's office. They will evaluate all the documents that you have. Sometimes they would even request an original copy of the e-car. Okay? Sa Taguig, they asked me to submit the duplicate original duplicate. Iba kasi yung original copy talaga. The duplicate is also the clear copy, blue copy. Kailangan daw nila ng kopya. Sabi ko, hindi naman ako hinihingan niya ng iba. Sabi nila, ma'am, kailangan namin. Iba po yung proseso namin. So, wala tayong magagawa. Let's just do it, sabi nga nila. So, you submit all these documents and then they will issue you an order of payment to pay. That is the signal to pay the transfer tax. Again, I mentioned early on, the transfer tax is 75% of 1% of the selling price that is indicated in the deed of absolute sale, with the exception of Taguig City Hall because they are only charging 60% of 1% of the selling price. Okay? So, i-evaluate po nila yan. Again, thank you to Mandaluyong Assessor's Office. They did not let me wait long. So I always have to be thankful for the government agencies who are really fast in their transaction. Mandaluyong Assessor's Office, maraming salamat. Silang Assessor's Office, maraming salamat. Marikina, maraming salamat. Okay? They did not let me wait so long. Sabi nila, maupo ka lang dyan, mag-relax ka dyan. We will hand to you your transfer certificate and the official receipt. So, ayan po. Kasi they will also request for all yung SPA mo, etc., etc. But sabi ko nga, for as long as all the documents are intact, wala po tayong problema. Okay? Okay, there you have it. Then we go to the next slide. We are almost done. This is step number 7. We are now with the Register of Deeds, meaning nabayaran na natin transfer tax, may e-car na tayo, and we have all the certified true copy of the documents, and we have the deed of absolute sale with BIR stamp at the back of each of the pages of the deed of absolute sale. You submit that to the RD. The RD will review, okay, will examine all the documents in terms of completeness and in terms of all the details that they have to check. Tama ba yung ID ng owner, ng buyer? Tama ba yung nakalagay na pangalan sa title? Wala bang misspelled word? Yung certificate of management ba, meron bang RA 4726 na Condominium Act because you're selling or that the subject of transaction is a condominium, etc., etc. It is so nice to experience all this. Sabi nga ng friends ko, why do you do it? Why don't you let someone do it? And I said, it is because in every client that I have, I experience a different method. Nadadagdagan yung knowledge. But of course, there's no harm in dealing or in collaborating with my fellow brokers on this. Okay? So the examiner will check on all the documents mentioned here in the slides. Take note of that. And again, they will advise you on when the title will be available. So when I submitted the complete documents of my client in Tagaytay RD, I was given the number 35 working days. Although nakita naman ng girl na medyo natuwa siya because of my organized documents. And sabi niya, but ma'am, you can check on me after 3 weeks. Baka ma-ready ko na. Again, thank you, RD Tagaytay. Ang dami ko shout out. So, the purpose of doing this, the reason why I'm giving you steps 1 to 7 is because I am trying to save on time, trying to save on gasoline, going back and forth on the same place because you did not bring the document is something else, very tedious, especially in Metro Manila. Traffic is how do you call this? Is terror. I'm terrorized with traffic. Parking is very expensive. Parking is very few. So if I don't have my husband beside me, na matagal, no? So I used my husband. User ako paminsan-minsan. Okay, so turnaround time varies. Now, next slide, please. I'm showing you the schedule of fees the Register of Deeds uses. The yellow one is the amount that is stipulated in the deed of absolute sale. And the blue one is your basis for the computation of your registration fee. Okay, next slide, please. In the processing of the new title, okay, I was fortunate enough to be invited by one of the RDs to show me how the retrieval of the electronic copy of the technical description is done. And this I am sharing it here to you. Okay, so next slide, please. Now, while the process calls for title transfer, next slide, please, Ms. Rosa. While the process calls for transfer titles only, I am duty bound to complete the transaction by securing a new tax declaration for my client. Okay, so um, in Pasig, ang bilis po doon, Marikina, all in Metro Manila, practically all, no? Babait po nila. So the assessor evaluates, pababayaran ka lang ng fee, you just have to come back 2 to 5 days, and then you will be issued your new tax declaration. Okay, so next slide, please. Once the tax declaration is released, notify mo na yung client mo. Sabihin mo, sir, madam, I was able to get a new title, I was able to get a new tax declaration. When am I going to deliver that document? This is to signal your client to pay you already kasi depende sa charges, no? Client ko kasi they pay me ahead of time. If I charge 70,000 per title, andyan na po yung cheque ko agad-agad. Ano po? So any extra copies that you have later when you endorse all the documents, especially the title and the tax declaration, ibalik niyo po lahat ng document that you reproduced to your client because there's no need for us. And besides, meron po kasi akong client na nagpirmahan po kami ng non-disclosure agreement. Meaning anything, I cannot mention their names, and everything that I have with me has to be returned to them. And I'll be quiet about their names, the property is located, but I have to mention the BIR where I did everything. Okay, so there you have it. I'm done. And before I end, last slide, please. There you are. I would like to thank Doc E.G Live for inviting me again in your YouTube and Facebook Live program. It's Doc E.G Live, Usapang Lupa at Negosyo. Thank you, sir, for having me. And I will never be tired appearing in your program. Thank you po. God bless all.
Wow, thank you, thank you. I've been listening intensely and I've been watching on questions that could be asked. And all of the questions said, yes, thank you. And the only question I saw is that how much is your charge for transfer of
Ah,
fee? Is it
ganito
on a
po,
case-to-case basis?
this is on a case-to-case basis. I usually charge, the initial charge before is 25. And then my next client paid me 50. And then my other
Uh,
client paid me 75. And the latest one paid me 100. Hindi ko
wow
ibabalik yung
naman.
sukli, sir, no? Hindi ako nagbabalik ng sukli.
Okay, okay. But there's so
Ayun
many
po.
who are with us. So many
Mm.
are listening. But let me greet them. Alam mo, yung birthday nung anak ni Shelo Laksamana, si Mariel Angelique. Hello, Mariel. Yeah. And of course, we have Ellen, no? Ellen Lee watching, viewing,
Hi,
Nerissa De Leon,
Ellen.
Gina Gika Batulan, and Rom Ramos. Yeah. And
Mm.
Jay Texon Gika, and R.G. Yami G. Batulan. Yung isang kasama natin sa Singapore,
Singapore.
si ano to,
Yeah.
Harvey Stanley Abuel Abuel. Ano
Oh,
na nga pangalan nito? Si
si
Rico ba
Rose,
ito?
si Rose. Hi, Rose.
Yeah,
Rose
watching
person.
us. Si Rose,
Mm.
no?
Yeah,
Hi
yes,
Rose,
sir.
let's get together with Nong so we can, and also I understand that andyan pa rin isang kaibigan mo no, si Dr. Villaruz, no?
Hi, Doc
Gabi
Gabi.
is watching
Yeah,
you right now.
hi, Doc
Kaya
Gabi.
sabi
We have a
niya, thank
transaction.
you, Doc. Thank you. Sabi niya, thank you. We learned a lot from you.
Thank
Sabi niya,
you.
puro thank you eh. Pero ang tanong lang niya is, you have had an experience in all of these BIR things. Do you experience BIR personnel who delay the transaction?
Yeah, that happened to me in southern part of Metro Manila. And when they found out that my client is a high government official, they facilitated it. Hindi ko kasi sinasabi who that government. I thought they were reading the records that I submit to them until they found out that the owner of the property I'm dealing with is a ranking government official, and that's the time they speed it up.
Ganun pala.
Mm.
Eh, paano
Opo,
kung hindi
sir.
high-ranking government officials?
But
Di ang hirap
sir,
din.
ito lang po. This was the only thing that delayed me, this BIR. They were charging beyond what is stated in the website. And when I tried to question it, I think there were insinuations, but I never agreed to any insinuations. So I gave them the time to work on it until when I came back and said, hindi pa ba tapos yan? Kasi tinatanong na po ako ni sir. When I mentioned the name of the sir, they started to check on the document and they found out that the property is owned by a high-ranking government official. So
Ah.
immediately tinapos. But I waited for more than a month.
Oh, wow, my God.
Yeah,
Kaya
opo.
talagang, ano tawag doon, kiss to kiss, case to
Yes,
case basis, no? Oh,
correct po,
by the
correct.
way, your partner, Dr. Leonor Kalayag is watching the BP Academic
Hi!
of
Hi po kayo.
Asian
Miss
Center of
you.
Entrepreneurship and Real Estate. Likewise, mga kasamahan mo na nagpunta ng Singapore are watching you right now, including my inaanak, no, from SSS Shakinika, Lara Pilapil. And of course, the PUP group, no, headed by Dr. Bong Muhi, President, and Cindy Pitalbero Soliman, the Associate Dean of the Graduate School. Sabi niya, I am enlightened on the explanation of Professor Liganor. Sabi niya, that is why I like Doc E.G. live because all of the speakers are good and can impart knowledge to us. Ganda, oh. Talaga. Sabi ko sa iyo eh. No? Kaya by next week naman, we will have we'll go naman to the government. We'll have an assessor.
Yes,
Assessor
sir.
to talk about assessors assessing and in the assessor's office. Okay, so maraming salamat,
Wala pong
Professor
anuman.
Liganor.
You're welcome
And
po.
as a simple token or gesture of our appreciation, allow me to give you a certificate of appreciation, which says that this is a certificate of appreciation to you, Engineer Eleanor Liganor, for being with us today on and as a resource person, guest speaker on efficient titling and documentation process. So maraming
Thank you
maraming
po.
salamat, Professor.
Yes, sir.
And God, alam mo, ngayon talaga nag-overtime tayo pero
Oo
ang
nga.
ganda-ganda. Hindi ko maputol, ang ganda-ganda eh. Ang ganda-ganda ng discussion. Kaya maganda,
Mm.
ha?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So maraming salamat. You can stay on while I complete the episode.
Doc,
Okay.
yeah. I also want to say hello to Sir Ton
Say hello, say hello.
Luterio. Hi,
Kanino?
Sir Ton. Boston Luterio is watching po. Thank you,
Oh
Boston, for
yes, oh
watching.
yes. Hello, Boston Ton Leoterio.
Yes,
Kasama si
hello.
Melby, ha? Si
Yeah.
Melby. Yes. Boston Ton Leoterio, hello. I hope I can see you one time when Nong and I go to Cebu.
Nasa Singapore yata sila ngayon, sir.
Oh yeah, they're watching
Yeah.
right now. Huh? That's
Yeah, they
good.
are.
That's good. Ganda naman. So we are planning for our next trip to Vietnam, huh?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome,
Nong. Thank
sir.
you.
You're welcome po, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, all right. So now we move on to some of the commercials. Sige. Okay, so for your security needs, training and development, go to Silver Point Training Institute of Industrial Security Incorporated, owned and operated by Dr. Silva. Okay. Then, well, there is a webinar on introduction to real estate service training on August 30 to September 1 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on and seminar topics are listed, no? And I think I'm one of the speakers. So if you have the time, you want to be a accredited salesperson, just attend this webinar. Sponsored by Merit, no? Sponsored by Merit Service Provider. Thank you. Next. Okay, so enrollment is still going on for Lyceum of Alabang, Blendplex program, still accepting students for Bachelor of Science in Real Estate Management, especially on second course. If you have completed already the first course, then you are most welcome to join us in our Blendplex program. So come and join us. I think you can just scan the QR code and you are in. Classes would be next week. So still enrollment still going on. Next. Okay. Next. Next. Okay, watch this. Okay, I would like to congratulate si Dr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. on his professorial chair, no? Professorial chair holder lecture on September 2, which would highlight resilience in the Philippine export industry. Congratulations, Dr. Ortiz Luis Jr. And also thank you to Dr. Bong Muhi, the president of PUP, Polytechnic University, and also to Dr. Cindy Petalbero Soliman, the Associate Dean of the Graduate School and the College of Business Administration. So come and join him. Let's all join him in his lecture on September 2. Yes. Okay, the Ellen Lee creation 24K gold authentic jade pendant. As you can see, a beautiful pendant, na? Okay, so if you need it, just connect to Ellen Lee W200 or Viber +63969294831 6. And you won't regret it. Ellen Lee 24K Gold Authentic Jade Pendant. Okay, so that's it. So now we move on to the last segment, and that is economics, or the quote of the week. The quote of the week comes from me. In real estate, it is important that you know the processes that will be used in the registration of the title to the name of the new owner. It is only then that you can get your hard-earned commission. No? So, be agile. I know that we have learned a lot in today's episode. We are actually over time already, but we are still on. Pero I cannot escape but announce the winners. No, meron tayong winner ng Doc E.G Live T-shirt. Carol Destacamento. Ulitin mo nga uli yun. Okay, Carol, congrats. Meron kang, mag ka ba? Mag pala sa kanya. T-shirt kay Carol. Ngayon, ang mag naman is to Claire Burseso. You won a mug from Doc E.G Live. Okay. So, just let us know, text us, or where we can send the t-shirt and the mug. Also tell us your size. Carol, ano ko ba? Small, medium, or large? No? Alam ko si Carol parang medium eh. Okay. So, we have an overload of learnings today. We have an overload of information today. I'm so happy that we have invited a very prominent personality in the real estate industry who is specializing on these particular transactions. Also, next week we'll try to bring in to you an assessor, no? Or assessors, dalawa, to talk about the workings of the assessor's office. And it's gonna be, the assessors are under the Bureau of Local Government Finance of the Department of Finance, or the DOF. So we will learn a lot about the workings of an assessor. Because you all know that an assessor is also part and parcel of Republic Act 9646 or the Resal Law. So until then, next Sunday, same time, 3 to 5 p.m., we'll bring you the 117th episode of Doc E.G Live, which is the last episode before we go to Season 10. Wow. By Season 10, we'll be moving our slot from a Sunday to a Friday, same time. Until then, on behalf of the team, my technical team, Rosa De Jesus, and of course, being helped by Ellen Lee, and also June Munsayak, and of course, the staff here who are with us. Thank you so much for being with us in the Sunday afternoon. And by the way, hello, thank you pala doon sa aking pamangkin, no? Si Dr. Eloisa Amores Chang, for giving me some prescription for my sore feet. Okay, thank you, Eloy. Okay, so maraming salamat, and see you again next Sunday. Stay safe, stay healthy.